There is a kind of beggar on the streets which sits in the same place day by day and begs for alms for survival. But on a day when you do not give the beggar alms, it whips out a dagger kept underneath his dari and threatens you. You are then forced to give it alms. Pakistan's situation is not very different. Regime after regime in Pakistan have subtly and overtly threatened the past to be in the international community and have got their way, including its most recent plot to foist the Taliban on Afghanistan and destabilize the entire region and realize its strategic objectives. Hi, and welcome all to the CAA show. My name is Juggi Bhasin. CAA is, of course, conversations and analysis. In one sense, I have to give it to Pakistan. They might not have enough money or the resources to tide over the next quarter, but they have one of the most deadly, ruthless, and manipulative intelligence agencies in the world, the ISI. This agency spreads instability in the entire region and even forces a superpower like the United States to tread softly around them. Fact is, every major power in the world knows the manipulative games Pakistan plays through the ISI, but they find themselves unable to checkmate it. So, how do the Pakistanis manage all this? They do this by deploying a combination of subtle blackmail and shrewd positioning. There are two parts to the story. In the winter of December 1979, when the then Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, an opportunity like never before fell into Pakistan's lap. Those were the days when the battle between worldwide communist ideology and the Western Free State democratic ideal was at its height. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan was completely unacceptable to the United States. Those were also the days of the domino theory. If one domino or a country fell under the weight of communism, then many more dominoes or countries in the entire region could go down under the weight of communism. Pakistan quickly saw the opportunity and put up their hand and offered help to the United States to ferry arms, ammunition, and especially the dreaded Stinger missiles to the local Afghani resistance called the Mujahideen. Many of these Mujahideen who fought against the Soviets were trained by the ISI. The Mujahideen became really good at their hit and run tactics and bled the Soviet occupation army. Pakistan not only became the conduit for all sorts of armaments, but it siphoned off a significant portion of these arms for use against India. It also leaned on the US for financial aid and arms supply, including the purchase of the deadly F-16 aircraft at very lenient terms. Every time they would use the excuse that these arms are required to wage combat against the fallout in Afghanistan. After 9/11, the second big opportunity came Pakistan's way when they became a frontline state for America to weed out terrorist elements from Afghanistan. In both these events, Pakistan positioned itself as the go-to state if the United States wanted to realize their objectives in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, yesterday's Mujahideen transformed into today's Taliban. Once again, the inspiration for the mutation into a hardline Islamist religious terror group came from Pakistan and the ISI. So, in essence, the Pakistanis continue their ostensible support to the United States, but at the same time radicalize and arm the Taliban to take on the Afghanistan government and Western forces, including US troops stationed in Afghanistan. Much of this is known, but the Pakistanis get away with the impossible because of two important reasons. They created geostrategic opportunities for themselves on both occasions, where they played into America's strategic fears of the spread of terror from this region and especially Afghanistan. They also possess nuclear weapons, and the last thing the United States would want is for an Islamist country to get hold of nuclear weapons from Pakistan and threaten Israel and even the American mainland itself. The Pakistanis subtly keep up this blackmail to give them all they want, or else. The other big reason why the US still indulges Pakistan is because of history and the fact that Pakistan has a sophisticated English speaking upper crust class. This class argues Pakistan cause very effectively in the corridors of power in Washington. Just to give you a comparison, even North Korea, like Pakistan, is a double dealing blackmailing state. But the US reserves much harsher rhetoric for them because they don't possess a sophisticated upper class that can argue the case in Washington. The historical military ties between Pakistan and the United States go back to the 50s. Many Pakistani frontline top generals have passed out of West Point, which is America's premier military academy. These ties are exploited by Pakistan to prevent America from taking precipitate action against them. Like all sophisticated blackmailers, Pakistan is the hound that also runs with the hare. They subtly hold out the threat of their nuclear weapons and leverage their diaspora, especially in countries like Britain, to get their way and put the pressure on India. Now, the thing with blackmailers is that they fall in their own trap when they feel they're at the top of the game. The present situation in Afghanistan, where the ISI backed Taliban has grabbed power, appears like a moment of triumph for Pakistan. But it could turn out to be that downfall moment also. America's fatigue with this region, and especially both Afghanistan and Pakistan, are real. The geostrategic significance of the region is lost, especially if the Chinese move in and grab opportunities here. America is in a mood to look inwards, and in the process of doing that, their patience of tolerating Pakistan's double dealing moves might be wearing thin. Then, like all upstarts, Pakistan could find itself at the short end of America's stick. So that's all we have in today's episode. Keep watching the CAA show with us. Do subscribe to us. And on this note, all of you out there have a pleasant and a great evening.